The law of attraction was not meant to be misinterpreted and kind of misrepresented, but the fact about it is that it was misrepresented and misinterpreted. So the law of attraction kind of was, well look, if you're driving into a car park and you want to manifest a parking space, you just really focus on a parking space, that you're going to get a parking space that's right next to the door. And if you really kind of embed that into your imagination, you're going to drive around and you feel it in your viscera, and you're going to have certainty in your body. You're going to drive up and hey presto, there's a parking space at the door. But the law of attraction just doesn't work that way. So the ancients told us that we are connected to everything in the earth, and we're connected with everybody on the planet, on the earth. And they told us that there's an interconnection. So they told us that with this interconnection, there's a kind of there's a perception that we affect other people and everything in the world, but that perception is actually a reality, that this reality is in existence. It really happens. But then we got lost and we forgot who we were and we forgot about ourselves. But recent discoveries into science, especially in 1952, when things really started to change, we started to see that there is actually an interconnectedness between us and the planet and us and everybody else on the planet. We are connected to those people. So the law of attraction then was about manifestation, but manifestation doesn't work that way. So now, let me just bring you back to recent science, for example. So we know that around the earth there's an electromagnetic field. And that electromagnetic field is a field of energy. Now, it's an electrical and a magnetic field. Now, the electromagnetic field around the earth determines the quality of life on the earth. For example, if there's a shift in the electromagnetivity of the planet, that shift affects the climate. If it affects the climate too much either way and throws it out of balance, then there is no you, and there is no me, and there is no life, and there is no nothing. And this rock becomes completely uninhabitable. Now, there's certain things that affect the electromagnetivity of our planet. Thing number one is cosmic influences, what's happening out there in the galaxy that permeates across the galaxy, across space and time, affects the electromagnetivity of the planet, and it affects our climate. At the same time, when we have sunstorms, for example, they affect the electromagnetivity of the planet. They affect digital readouts on computers and digital equipment and so on and so forward. Then, all of a sudden, we realized that in the middle of our chest cavity, we have a plexus of neurons. We have neurites. And these neurons, there's about 40,000 of them sitting there, and they are connected to our heart center. And our heart center, our heart, influences the plexus of neurons. Now, plexus of neurons is a brain. So all of a sudden we realized in our chest cavity that we have a little brain that's connected to our heart. So is it just coincidence that the ancients told us, and your grandparents and your parents said to us, listen to your heart? Now, what did that mean? Well, all of a sudden the whole thing just came out, and we started to realize that maybe there's something in here, and that has been the quantum shift that we've just had. Now, prior to all of this, we lived in what we call a clockwork predictable world, a clockwork predictable universe. And that meant this, that when Newton came along and Descartes came along, and Newton discovered differential calculus and said, look, when you have something over here with this effect on it over here, it's going to move from here and it's going to move from here. So everything affects everything, but everything that affects everything is calculable. Differential calculus, right? So it's calculable, it's determinable. If the apple falls from a tree, it's a certain weight and it's a certain distance from the tree, it's going to take this amount of time to hit the ground. So then that was the calculation and the predictable calculation of our universe, of our galaxy, of our planet, of your life. But there's a new science today, and that science is quantum physics. And quantum physics is teaching us that we can affect change in our life, in any area of our life, our money, our wealth, our health, our stress, our bucket list, our relationship. Everything is affected by us. And here's why we know. So, we done a measurement, and a whole institute opened up around measuring human potential. It's called the Hartman Institute in Boulder, California. They started to measure the electromagnetivity of the heart, the brain, and the plexus of neurons in our chest cavity, which is a mini brain. What we found was that the plexus of neurons in our chest cavity, which is a mini brain, is not influenced by your left brain analytical, which is your ego, where all your subconscious programs live, such as programs of I can't, I shouldn't, I mustn't, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'll never get what I want in my life, I'm always broke, things are terrible, life stinks. So that all lives in left brain analytical. The plexus of neurons in your heart has absolutely no connection. There's no fornix between this and between left brain analytical. So it is removed from your ego. So as far as the chest brain is concerned, there is no you in a negative sense anywhere. It just doesn't know this. It's connected in here. Then bingo, all of a sudden they started to measure the electrical magnetic fields of our chest cavity, of our plexus of neurons and of our heart. And do you know that your heart has 100 times more electrical effect than your brain, gives more 100 times more electricity than your brain. And at the same time, the magnetism in your heart is 5,000 times stronger than the magnetism of your brain. So we thought for years that the party was going on upstairs, that upstairs was getting all the activity, that upstairs was in charge of everything, that upstairs knew everything that we ever needed to know, and there was nothing beyond what was going on upstairs. But the party isn't going on up here. The party was always going on in here. We just completely and utterly forgot about it. So then we started to see that the electromagnetivity of your heart can be now measured 1 kilometer from your body, and it is far stronger than the electromagnetivity of your brain. So then we came along, and in 2001 there was a huge shift in the electromagnetic field of the Earth. How do we know? We got 10 satellites up there. They're called GOES satellites. GOES 8 and GOES 10 are 2 of the 10 satellites. They sit at polar opposite ends of the planet to each other, and their job is to measure the electromagnetivity of the world, because if we measure the electromagnetivity of the planet and we measure it, we can predict climate change. How cool is that? All of a sudden there was a major shift in the electromagnetivity of the planet. And when they looked out, because now they had the science, now they had the tools, now they had the researchers, and when they looked out to see what cosmic influences was happening to affect the electromagnetivity of the planet, there was no effect. It was unnatural. So now there's an unnatural effect to the planet, but it was actually natural. It was more natural. We just had never discovered this secret part, hidden part of nature. Now watch this. This gets so cool and so exciting. When the electromagnetivity of the planet increased to a level that doesn't sustain life, when it increased just in that moment, they discovered that it was literally 15 minutes after the second plane hit the second tower, and the world was told of this catastrophe that had just happened on our doorstep, on our western doorstep. So they thought, well, that's a coincidence. So in science, when there's an incident, it's called an incident. When there's two, it's called a coincidence. So we came along and they decided, we need to check this out and see what's happening. But they'd been measuring the electromagnetivity of the Earth for years. They just had never, ever, ever started to associate it with what was happening on the planet. So they looked back to see, was the same unnatural shift recorded in the past? And hey presto, they found it. And it was right at the time that the world was told that Princess Diana had passed away and died. So in other words, they started to see that the collective thinking of people was affecting the planet. Now, that's no longer scientific mumbo jumbo. That is pure, clear, utter scientific fact that your center, your heart center, the magnificence and the magnitude of the power that you harness within you is far greater than you ever gave it permission to be in the first place. You are far greater than you ever gave yourself permission to be in the first place. So now, we come along and let's just join the whole tapestry together for you if we could. Have you ever sat with somebody new, who just was introduced to you, and you think, I get a bad feeling from this person. They don't vibrate with me. I shivered when I met them. Well, let me tell you what's happening there. They vibrate in accordance with their thinking and their heart center. You vibrate in accordance with your thinking and your heart center, and when you put two opposite electromagnetic fields together, what do? They repel each other. That's why you have the feeling. That's how measurable you can measure your life. You can literally get into your heart center and know whether everything in your life is meant to be or not meant to be, because when you get into your heart center, you vibrate at that level. So now you want to bring financial wealth into your life, for example. Well, I can tell you that whatever you want to bring into your life, everything on this planet vibrates, even thoughts. Now, when we have a thought, what is a thought? Well, a thought is a vector in a linear space. So it's a fluctuation in a space, a distant space in time. So it's a vector in a linear space. When we start to look down through you, and we've looked down through you, your organs, your molecules, right down into your atoms, your subatoms, your subatomic level, your subnuclear level, and we go right down and we go past particle, we see what's called vibrating waves. So vibrating waves of function, electromagnetic waves. And when we go down through that again, and we can see down through that with the technology that we have, what we find now is we find a field of information. Perfect, clear, precise, determinable, effective information. It's at a field, it's at a level, and it's called a unified field. And the unified field is made from the same thing that thoughts are made of. So we live in a thought universe, fully dynamic, fully aware, and fully capable, all-knowing and all-able universe that we live in right now. And that vibrates at a level, and our thinking allows us to vibrate at a level as well. And now we start to see that opposite electromagnetic fields repel each other, but therefore equally the opposite applies. And the opposite applying means this, means similar electromagnetic fields attract each other. And that's how you attract people into your life, things into your life, when you vibrate at the level that they're waiting for you to vibrate at, so that you can invite it into your life. Now, if you want to build your wealth, or you want to build your life, and you want to build whatever it is that you want to be, you want to own an airplane, whatever it is, when you come along and you connect with your heart center and you allow it to do what it's meant to do, and you give it the license to do the things that it's meant to do, and you connect in there with absolute certain belief that whatever this is that you want to bring into your life, that you are fully capable and fully able and fully dynamic enough to be able to do that, well, guess what? You will start to move towards that thing that you're trying to bring into your life. So that's why the law of attraction, yeah, sure, it sounds really good and quirky, but it is much more scientific than that, and now you know the science. You know exactly how to bring those things into your life. So now what you do is, when you sit in your bed in the morning time and you get out of bed every morning, you sit there and you think and feel about what that is that you want to bring into your life. And when your self-doubt kicks in, just know that that's not your heart. Just know that that is not you speaking at all. That is your influences from the past that told you that life is difficult, things are hard, you never get what you're looking for, you know, don't try and do this and don't try and do that, you're not capable, you're not good enough. That's just their perception on life. You just heard it, you picked it up, you became it, and you forgot to give it back. Now when you sit in your bed in the morning and you have the doubt in, you realize the doubt came from somebody else, so guess what? You just give the doubt back, because it's not yours, it was never meant to be, you picked it up by accident. And now you listen to your heart. And your heart will say to you that you can do this. You have this in the bag. You can make this thing happen. You are great. You are awesome. And I'm telling you, when you do that, now you've met yourself for the first time. And that's how great you are. Have a good day.